What is up, guys? It is Marcus from Perspective Sports, and today we'll be looking at the Washington Redskins, who currently don't have a GM, and that's why I am here. Anybody watch My Hero Academia? No? You should. But this is my offseason outlook for the Washington Redskins, and they recently hired Ron Rivera to be their head coach, who's brought along Jack Del Rio to be the defensive coordinator. And the interesting thing about this is Jack Del Rio will be switching the Redskins over from a 3-4 to a 4-3 defense, which I think will be better for them in the long run given their personnel. But before we get into the offseason, let's first look at the Washington Redskins' assets. They have a first-round pick, a third-round pick, a fourth-round pick, a fifth-round pick, and 2 seventh-rounders. They also have $46,152,010 in cap space. And now we're going to take a quick look at the current roster of the Washington Redskins heading into the offseason. And there's 59 players on it. And feel free to pause it if it's going too fast and you want to take a good look at the roster. But next, we want to take a look at the key free agents that are on the roster, and there are 5 guys I want to take a good look at. And the 5 people I want to take a really good look at is guard Brandon Sheriff, running back Adrian Peterson, who has a club option in his contract, tackle Donald Penn, cornerback Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, and inside linebacker John Bostic. And out of those 5 players, I've decided to bring back 3. The first one being guard Brandon Sheriff to a 4-year, $52 million deal with $37 million guaranteed. He played in 11 games this season, and in 2018 he's played in 8. And so you're probably wondering, why so much money for a guy who hasn't been healthy? But let's look at the big picture. Over the last 5 seasons, he only allowed 13 sacks, which is about 2.6 sacks a year. And in his last healthy season, he only committed 1 penalty, which is 2017. That was the year I was looking at. He only had 1 penalty that year. And this is a bet on Brandon Sheriff getting healthy and being able to stay healthy in the future, because when he is healthy, he's a very good guard and not somebody you want to let go of. Next, we have Adrian Peterson. We're going to pick up his club option, which is going to be about a $3.1 million cap hit. And for a guy that only played 42% of the snaps this season, he had 898 rushing yards on 211 attempts, which is about 4.3 yards per carry. He also had added 5 touchdowns. And so Adrian Peterson was very productive for the Washington Redskins and a guy that you really want to keep around at least for another year. And then we have inside linebacker John Bostic, who we signed to a 2-year, $4.7 million deal with $2 million guaranteed and a club option after year 1. And he played 91% of the snaps this year, and he played extremely well. He had 104 tackles, a sack, and an interception. And so I think John Bostic is worth keeping around at least another year. When you look at him over the past years, he's been in Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, New England, Chicago. He hasn't really been able to find a home and stay in the system. And so to play well his first time in this system, let's give him another year or so to see how he performs. And now let's move on from our on-roster free agents to some free agents on the open market. And here's what we're going to take a look at on the offensive side of the ball. We're going to look at some running backs, Carlos Hyde and Jordan Howard. And then we're going to take a look at A.J. McCarron, Nick Mullins, and Chase Daniels. Guys that, God forbid something happened to Dwayne Haskins, they can come in. Colt McCoy's not on the roster anymore. Case Keenum's not on the roster anymore. We need a backup quarterback. We don't know the status with Alex Smith. And then you have guards Andreas Pete and Max Garcia. Then you have tackle George Fant. And then center Connor McGovern. And on the defensive side of the ball, you can see it's very focused on the defensive back position. We have Logan Ryan, Darquez Denard, Chris Harris, Darryl Worley, and Bradley Roby as cornerbacks. And then we have free safety Clayton Geathers, Trey Boston, and Justin Simmons at safety. And now let's move into the players that we have signed from our target list. And we have cornerback Bradley Roby to a 3-year, $12.5 million deal with $6.5 million guaranteed. And for a guy that played 60.5% of the snaps, he's played very well for the Houston Texans. 35 tackles, 8 passes defended, 2 interceptions, a sack, and a touchdown. Bradley Roby can come in and be an impact player for this Redskins defense in day 1. Next, we'll be signing center Connor McGovern to a 5-year, $48 million deal with $35 million guaranteed. And he's quietly been very good. He hasn't committed a penalty all year, and he's played every single offensive snap for the Denver Broncos. He has allowed 3.5 sacks, but he is 26 years old, and he's a guy that I could see growing with Dwayne Haskins for years to come. I think Connor McGovern is going to be one of the better players at the center position going forward, which is why we want to bring him in for the long term. Then we're going to sign running back Carlos Hyde to a 1-year, $4 million deal, fully guaranteed. And Carlos Hyde played less than 50% of the snaps, still had 1,070 rushing yards, 4.4 yards per carry, and 6 touchdowns. And I'm signing Carlos Hyde for 2 reasons. Number 1 is I can't trust Darius Geis to stay healthy for a full season. He didn't play his rookie year. He got injured in week 5. It wasn't intentional, by the way. It was just a bad luck. But I don't know if he'll be able to play a full season. Number 2 is how will Adrian Peterson play at 35 years old? Yes, he was good this year, but that doesn't mean he's a guarantee to be that good next year. And so we're going to bring in Carlos Hyde, who can do a lot of things. He's a versatile back, and he's a very productive back. And he doesn't need a lot of touches to do a lot of good things. Then we're going to bring in free safety Trey Boston, signing him to a 3-year, $24 million deal with $13 million guaranteed. And Trey Boston has played well in the past few seasons, but he can't seem to find a home. I can see Ron Rivera bringing him in for a few reasons. Number one, it's a position of need. Number two, he already knows who Trey Boston is, and Trey Boston knows the expectations of Coach Ron Rivera. And number three is he can help be a leader in the locker room as he makes the transition and the cultural change in Washington. This year, Trey Boston has 68 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 11 passes defended. Then we're going to bring in A.J. McCarron to a 1-year, $2 million deal with about $1 million guaranteed. And again, I don't think Alex Smith is going to play this year, and the team is in need of a backup quarterback. So I'm bringing in A.J. McCarron, who is a bit of a journeyman, but when he has to play, he plays fairly decently. And so just so we all know we're on the same page, my cap hits go based off guarantees because, contracts are a lot different in the NFL. The cap hits are different per year. So I'm just breaking it down from guarantees divided by years, and that's how much cap space it uses up. Just so we all know and we're all on the same page. And now let's take a look at the current roster heading into the draft. Once again, feel free to pause the video if the cards are moving too fast and you want to get a better look at the roster. But without further ado, let's dive right into the draft. With the second overall pick of the first round, the Washington Redskins select Chase Young, defensive end out of Ohio State. Chase Young was an absolute monster at Ohio State. He has all the physical tools to become an immediate impact player in the NFL. He had 46 tackles, 16.5 sacks, and 7 forced fumbles this year while commanding a double team. Chase Young is one of those players that if you have the opportunity to take him, you take him. You don't mess around. You put that card in and you bring him into your roster. And so we're going to take Chase Young with the second overall pick. And before we announce the next pick, we have a trade to announce. And that's the Cincinnati Bengals will be sending the 33rd overall pick in the second round to the Washington Redskins in exchange for left tackle Trent Williams. This is a good deal for both sides because Trent Williams has refused to play for the Washington Redskins, but he still has value, and the Redskins can trade him for an early second round pick, if not a late first rounder. And as for the Bengals, they'll be acquiring a high-end left tackle to start to build that offensive line around quarterback of the future, Joe Burrow, or who we assume to be Joe Burrow. Because in the second round, they're not going to find anybody as good as Trent Williams, and I think they'll be more than willing to part ways with the second round pick to test out Trent Williams for a year and see if they want to keep him long term. But wait, there's more. The Washington Redskins send the 33rd overall pick to the Chicago Bears in exchange for the 43rd and the 50th overall pick. This deal works for the Redskins because they have a lot of needs, and trading back for later picks, especially in the same round, can allow them to get multiple quality players. As for Chicago, they have a solid team, they don't have a ton of glaring needs, and there's going to be a lot of first-round talent left over on day 2, and having their pick of the litter is something I think they'll be willing to trade up for due to the fact that they don't have a lot of needs on their roster. And now back to the draft. And with the 43rd overall pick in the second round, the Washington Redskins select tight end Hunter Bryant out of Washington. And in his first full season, he had 53 receptions for 825 yards and 3 touchdowns. Bryant is 6'2", 240 pounds, a reliable target, and can get yards after catch. He's a lot like current Redskins tight end Jordan Reed, but Jordan Reed's health is a major problem. Adding Bryant would be a great addition for the Washington Redskins, and getting him in the second round may turn out to be an actual steal. With the 50th overall pick in the second round, the Washington Redskins select offensive tackle Isaiah Wilson out of Georgia. He's 6'7", 340 pounds. His technique needs improvement, but the physical tools are there. He currently plays right tackle at the University of Georgia, and so the Redskins could either try to switch him to left tackle and see if he can learn there, or keep him where he's at and just move Morgan Moses to the left tackle position. With the 66th overall pick in the third round, the Washington Redskins select offensive guard Logan Stenberg out of Kentucky. And as you can see, I'm committing to building an offensive line for Dwayne Haskins and these running backs. Stenberg is 6'6", 322 pounds, a fifth-year senior with a lot of experience. He's a guy that I could see getting a good amount of time in year 1. With the 98th pick in the fourth round, the Washington Redskins select defensive end Darrell Taylor out of Tennessee. He had 46 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, and 8.5 sacks. He needs to work on his pass rushing moves, but he can drop back and by the quarterback. He can line up as the inside of the 4-3, which the Redskins will be going to this year. And I think getting him in the fourth round wouldn't be too much of a risk. With the 130th overall pick in the fifth round, the Washington Redskins select wide receiver John Hightower out of Boise State. And I'm very familiar with John Hightower. He's a versatile receiver who can not only take the top off of defense, but you can get him involved in the running game. He had 51 receptions for 943 yards and 8 touchdowns this year. He also had 16 carries for 154 yards. I think putting him alongside Terry McLaurin can be something explosive. With the 193rd pick of the 7th round, the Washington Redskins select cornerback Levante Taylor out of Florida State. He's 5'10", 190 pounds. The stats don't really jump off the page. 37 tackles, a sack, an interception, and 3 passes defended. But I think he could be very useful in the nickel package. And with the 206th overall pick in the 7th round, the Washington Redskins select wide receiver TJ Vasher out of Texas Tech. Now, Vasher's been in some trouble. He was suspended due to a violation of team rules, but he's 6'6", 210 pounds, had 42 receptions for 515 yards and 6 touchdowns. And for the 7th round, he's not that much of a risk, but he can be a very high reward because his size and stature can be very useful for this Redskins offense. And now let's take a look at the Redskins roster after the free agency, after the draft, and there's 73 players on it. And in real life, there's going to be a 90-man roster heading into training camp, but we don't know who's going undrafted, which player is going to be a surprise free agent. There's just so many variables, and for the sake of this video, we're going to head into training camp with 73 rosters. And due to another caveat, it's early. We don't know how players are going to perform in training camp, preseason, etc. So when you look at my 53-man roster at the end of the video, it's just based off my educated guess. And so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Who do you think I should do next? You'll see the 50-man roster as the video plays on towards the end. I hope you enjoyed.